What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're going to be talking about Wolverine number 41, written by Victor LaValle and Benjamin Percy, with art by Jeff Shaw and Corey Smith, inks by Jeff Shaw and Oren Jr., and color by Alex Sinclair. It's been a while, but since last we left off with Wolverine, and I know, I'm sorry I haven't covered any Wolverine issues since the end of the Weapons of X story arc over on the Wolverine side of things, so I apologize. I've been very busy. But that said, a lot has happened. He participated in the Weapons of Vengeance story arc, a dual story arc between Benjamin Percy's Ghost Rider and, well, you guessed it, Benjamin Percy's Wolverine, where the two characters teamed up to help take down a mutant that was being used by Project Hellfire, a subsidiary of the Weapon Plus program. Wolverine even briefly became Ghost Rider for a little bit, and even fought against Johnny Blaze briefly before the two eventually were able to team back up and take down the real threat. Since then, we had 3 Wolverine clones that were in the wind, and in just one issue, Wolverine had traveled across the entire globe. One of his clones was hiding out in Canada around the old Howlett estate, the family estate of Wolverine from decades ago. One of them was hiding out around there and had become a cannibal and eventually turned into the new Wendigo, one that literally ripped Wolverine in half with his bare hands and teeth, but was ultimately taken down by the Incredible Hulk. We also found another one of Wolverine's clones that had been seemingly taken in by a Japanese cult who saw this Wolverine as a god and wanted to consume this god in order to become just like him. Hulk also was instrumental in getting rid of this clone. And then eventually we would get to the final clone, who was being used by the mutant Solem, who we were first introduced to during the Ten of Swords story arc, and put this very same Wolverine clone into the guise of Patch, and was using him to take control of Madripoor's criminal everything. We also saw Wolverine take down the auction house with the help of Captain America, rounding up all of the weapons of mass destruction the auction house had been collecting, and helped both Captain America and Nick Fury get those weapons away from falling into the hands of the highest bidder. He's also helped T'Challa in regards to shutting down Orcus's attempt to obtain metals and materials from Wakanda's black market after Wakanda's parliament had rejected Orcus's attempt at trying to bring them into the fold. And we even saw him pal around with Spider-Man to take down a Sentinel or two and some of those pesky Terminators that Orcus had made out of dead Wolverines. So what's left for Wolverine to tackle after all the things he has experienced? He's taken on Dracula, he's taken on Omega Red, he has taken on X-Desk, he has taken on Beast, and a myriad of other things. So now, what is there left for him to do? Well, the one thing he hasn't done since the House of X era began, and that's take on Sabertooth. Now, this is perfect timing because I've talked about this before, but Sabertooth has an age-old rivalry with Wolverine, and one that goes beyond just the normal Wolverine versus Sabertooth shenanigans, but a birthday tradition. This is a tradition that goes all the way back to classic X-Men number 10 back in 1987, a tradition where every time Wolverine's birthday comes around, Sabertooth comes along and decides to f it up in some way, shape, form, or fashion, whether it's killing the woman he loves or just giving him a really rough time. One way or the other, Sabertooth is gonna mess with Wolverine, and this time he's planning to do it in the biggest way humanly possible. For those who have not been keeping up, Sabertooth has recently come into his own as of late as an entrepreneurial leader of a proverbial army of himself. In Victor LaValle's Sabertooth and the Exiles, Sabertooth had taken over an Orcus station in the fallout of that series and now commands an army of headless variants of himself from across the multiverse. If you didn't keep up with that series, I did a whole playlist on it. You can go check it out up here. Not only does Sabertooth have a headless army of himself, but he also has a close-knit group of 3 other Sabertooth variants from across the multiverse, who just so happen to still have their heads. One of those being Cap from Earth 203, the Sentinel of Tyranny, a Sabertooth who became, you guessed it, Captain America. We also have the Sabertooth of Earth 1912, a more prehistoric style version of Sabertooth who is seemingly modeled after Shanna the She-Devil from the Savage Land and is also known as Savage. She also is the only living variant of Victor Creed we know of so far who is a woman. And then there's Pretty Boy, a Sabertooth from Earth 12 who is a bit of a playboy and gives metrosexual vibes. Think Zoolander with sharp claws and teeth and a mean streak. And we also were introduced into this issue a new version of Sabertooth from the multiverse, one who has just joined the Sabertooth clique, the Sabertooth of Earth 33441, otherwise known as Camo. Seemingly, he has the same powers as Sabertooth proper, but with an added ability to shapeshift like Mystique, albeit it's not really made clear whether he's actually fully rewriting his genetic structure the way she does, but he is able to mimic the appearance of anyone that he chooses, and he's also able, as Sabertooth proper deduces, is able to mentally manipulate those around him to perceive him through all five senses as whatever it is he wants them to perceive him as, whether it's seeing, hearing, smell, touch, taste, whatever. If he wants to be Wolverine, he's going to look and smell just like Wolverine, even to the point that Sabertooth proper almost gets tricked by it. Right now, this close-knit group of Sabertooths is kind of on rocky ground, and you can tell they want to take on the mutants of Earth 616. And the trouble with that is that Sabertooth doesn't think they're ready yet because he's preparing them for the big bad Krakoan party. And this means that there's a lot of mutants on the island that 4 Sabertooths and an army of Sabertooths won't even be able to take on, and Sabertooth knows that. But there's one thing Sabertooth doesn't know, and it's that while he's been away, Orcus has taken out Krakoa. As a matter of fact, when they get to Krakoa, he sees exactly what we've been seeing for the past few months. The fact that Krakoa is, for all intents and purposes, abandoned, that has been taken over and has been surrounded by Sentinels. That said, Sabertooth will settle for killing whoever he can get his hands on. And since Kid Omega is dumb enough to go running off to Krakoa by himself, despite the fact that Black Tom Cassidy warns him as much that Wolverine told him to wait, the Sabertooths make short work of Quentin Quire. And all of this is in service of a great thing, the greatest thing that Sabertooth can do, and that is to outdo himself. Sabertooth has been gathering all of this muscle in order to give Wolverine the biggest, most baddest birthday that he could ever give him, just in time for Wolverine's 50th anniversary. That's right, Wolverine turns 50 this year. More specifically, he'll turn 50 in July of this year, with his first appearance having been in Incredible Hulk number 180 in 1974. So he has to go big. It's go big or go home. And how is he going to outdo himself if he doesn't have an army of himself to help take Wolverine down a peg? But it actually goes a bit deeper than that. As I said earlier, Sabertooth loves to come around on Wolverine's birthday and cause the little runt some pain. He's done it multiple times throughout their publication history, and the most famous of them all was when he killed Silver Fox, the love of Wolverine's life, a woman who's haunted Wolverine's memories since her death, even going back to the years where his memories of his past were virtually non-existent. We've seen versions of his memories where Sabertooth was her killer, and even later when Dr. Pharaoh had manipulated Wolverine into believing he had killed Silver Fox himself. But the truth has always been Sabertooth was the one who killed her, until the character Akihiro, aka Fang, formerly known as Daken, and his mother Itsu were introduced into the Wolverine canon in 2006's Wolverine Origins number 5 and Wolverine Volume 3 number 10 respectively. Silver Fox was Wolverine's greatest loss, but when they entered the picture, this was a brutal death Sabertooth couldn't claim. Romulus was the one who killed Itsu and plucked Akihiro from her womb. Despite Itsu's murder being canonically first having happened in 1946 and Wolverine and Silver Fox only just dating in the 1950s, Silver Fox is still the first true brutal death Wolverine has ever faced. For comics readers in the 90s, reading Wolverine comics. And one of the deadliest and most messed up deaths Sabertooth has ever inflicted upon anyone close to Wolverine, and it's something that he's been trying to outdo ever since, and he might have just come close to it just now, and he's gonna use Akihiro to do it. Akihiro and Logan have rarely been anything close to father and son. They have been bitter enemies since Akihiro's induction into the Marvel Comics canon back in 2006, but the Krakoan age has brought them closer together than they've ever been before, but even that is not as good as it could be, at least not in terms of how a father and son should be. But now that mutants are facing ultimate extinction, they've actually bonded more than ever before, and in this issue, Wolverine shares what I think is one of the most tender moments with his son Akihiro for the first time ever, at least that I can remember. So of course, it's the perfect time for Sabertooth to come along and all that up, leaving a message in the snow for Wolverine made up of the body parts of Akihiro, as well as another random mutant who was nearby. This is the most messed up thing I think Sabertooth ever could have done, and it actually makes sense now. When I first read this issue, looking at the very beginning of it, it had a parental advisory on it and warning that this was one of the most violent issues, if not the most violent issue of Wolverine ever committed to page, and you can see why. It is violent, even at the very beginning, all the blood and guts and gore, everything that happens to Kid Omega, and then eventually to Wolverine's son, Akihiro. It's crazy to even imagine, but yeah, this is ultimately the most bloody issue of Wolverine I think I've ever read, and I've read a lot of issues of Wolverine, but yeah, this is everything that Wolverine was afraid of that was going to happen, and everything that Victor LaValle had promised us at the end of Sabertooth and the Exiles that Sabertooth was going to do to Wolverine. He has been plotting doing this for a long time, and Benjamin Percy and Victor LaValle have come together, worked together on this in such a way that they have crafted the perfect narrative where everything flows exactly as it should. The Sabertooth we see in Wolverine number 41 acts no differently than the one we have seen under Victor LaValle's penmanship. And Wolverine is just as Wolverine as ever under Benjamin Percy. So yeah, the way they have come together and crafted this narrative that is going to span quite a few issues. The Sabertooth War is slated to be a 10-part story arc, with the final issue being Wolverine number 50, which comes out, well, you guessed it, very likely gonna drop roughly around the time of July. These are gonna be coming out twice monthly as is stated at the back of this issue, so get ready for a lot of Wolverine because the Sabertooth War has only just begun. You guessed it, obligatory channel outro time. If you're not subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. Clicking that subscribe button and tapping that notification bell ensures that you get more videos just like this one, and you don't miss any of my other content that I drop throughout the week, plus my live streams every Thursday and Saturday. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you click that like button, keep it plus ultra, and sound off in the comments.